Hi friends, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be showing you a couple of polishes that I bought recently. If you're familiar with my channel, you know I don't really do these kind of like monthly hauls or anything because I really try not to buy a lot of polishes. At this point, I really am trying to limit myself to only shopping for polish pickup, but sometimes there are just some polishes that I have to grab. So I picked up this bunch over the last month or so. So as always, I will save some more thoughts at the end after some comparisons. But for now, let me just show you the swatches. The first polish is Cirque Colors Clairvoyant, and if you watched my favorite magnetics video, you might remember that I brought this polish up wishing that Cirque would bring it back. It came out a couple years ago from the Aura collection, and it is this pastel lavender magnetic jelly polish. One of my followers reached out to me saying that she had it in her collection and was willing to part ways with it, so I picked this one up and the next polish, and I could not be happier. So I decided to show this in the velvet effect because that's just how I really prefer wearing Cirque magnetics especially. I did have one coat of Clairvoyant unmagnetized as like a base layer, and then I painted on my second layer with the magnet on the side and am pulling the magnet away, placing it on the other side of my nail just to shift the magnetic pigment around, and it is absolutely beautiful. Cirque magnetics have such a plush looking velvet finish. This one still is a little bit sheer though on 2 coats, and here it is unmagnetized on the left in 3 coats, and then with the cat eye effect on the right in 3 coats, which is super sheer, but I still really love this color. The other polish that I grabbed was Oracle, which was the darker purple from the same Aura collection. So again, I'm starting with 1 coat unmagnetized and then painting on my second layer with the magnet on the side of my nail. And you can just see right away, because Cirque magnetics have a jelly formula, the magnetic pigment just shifts around so easily. This one looked so insane, so shifty. I think especially because of the contrast of the silver magnetic shimmer against the dark purple jelly base. It just looks so dynamic when you're moving your fingers around. I absolutely love this one. And because it has that darker base, it was opaque in just 2 coats. And again, here it is unmagnetized on the left and then with a cat eye on the right, all in 2 coats. And I am so glad that somebody was willing to sell these to me because they are just so beautiful. I really hope that Cirque decides to bring these 2 purples back. Next, I made my first purchase from Sassy Sauce, and the first one that I grabbed was a Comet's Tail. This one I got based off of a recommendation, again from my favorite magnetics video, where I mentioned wanting a few lighter magnetic polishes, almost like pastel magnetics, which is why I picked up Clairvoyant in the first place. And when I saw the recommendation for this shade and I looked up the swatches, I was just so blown away by the color, but I guess more specifically by the magnetic shimmer in here, because I'm not super crazy about the base color. It's kind of like this champagne-y, pale yellowy gold. So I don't know how flattering it is on me, but because there's so much shimmer in here, that also shifts to another color in more extreme lighting. Like the magnetic shimmer goes from pink to orange, but then the base color shimmer goes from green to blue and purple. So it is just so shifty and so beautiful with all of those colors. And I don't know if you noticed it, but I was using a neodymium magnet that I also picked up from Sassy Sauce. She has 2 options on her website, and I went with the stronger one because I just heard that that one's better, but I didn't notice that much of a difference right away. And the other polish that I grabbed from Sassy Sauce was Cock-a-Doodle-Doom. I have seen swatches of this all over Instagram ever since it came out, and it has always been tempting me because, as you might know, I am such a sucker for red shimmer, especially in purple bases. It just is so beautiful in every photo that I see that I finally decided to add it to my cart since I was gonna pick up the magnetic polish anyway. The formula on this one was really nice. It was really easy to work with and apply. It was just a little bit sheer on the first coat, not super even coverage, but I found that it evened out really nicely on 2 coats and it built up more opacity. There still is a little hint of nail line, so I guess you could do a 3rd coat, especially to deepen the color, but I didn't find that necessary. I absolutely love how this one glows. Next, I grabbed a couple of Lurid lacquer polishes. This is a relatively new indie brand, like they only just launched their debut collection towards the last week of January, if I remember correctly. It was this massive collection filled with these beautiful glowing shimmers, and all of the polish names come from the same poem where they're just like different lines. So this polish is called Only Fools Fail to Admire, and it is this really pretty cotton candy pink crelly base that is packed with this really glowy pink to peach to gold shifting shimmer. Obviously, this was going to be my favorite from the collection, and I just had to pick it up. It is just such a pretty, dainty, princess kind of pink. The formula was really nice and easy to work with. It was obviously really sheer on the first coat where you barely get a wash of the base color, but you get a lot of the shimmer already, and it builds up really nicely in 2 and 3 coats, but you are still going to see a little hint of nail line. But I found that it was pretty covered up, especially here on 3 coats, where again, it's kind of like that really buildable, crelly kind of base. And then here it is in more extreme lighting, so you can see that shift to gold in the shimmer. It is just so pretty. I feel like it gives it a really warm, peachy kind of color. And the other polish that I grabbed was Nettle and Briar, and this is like a seafoam jade crelly green base with a pink to orange to yellow shifting shimmer. So I'm pretty sure that the shimmer is the same as the last polish, it's just in a different base color. The formula on this one, again, was super smooth, easy to work with and apply, very even coverage, just very sheer as you can see here just from the first coat alone. Doing a second coat surprisingly didn't give me that much more coverage. It was still a lot more sheer than I was expecting it to be. So I definitely think 3 coats is necessary for this shade unless I just happen to do a thinner coat maybe, or you could just try using a blurring base coat to get a little bit more coverage. But yeah, I absolutely love the color that it builds up to in 3 coats. It is just such a soothing seafoam kind of shade. I think the shimmer is just such a pretty contrast, the pink against that bluish green, and then in more extreme angles where it shifts to gold, I think it is just so gorgeous. So yeah, if you love shimmers, I would highly recommend checking out Lurid when their shop reopens next month in March. They are just so pretty, and I love the brushes too. And last but certainly not least, I have finally added Bee's Knees Lacquer's Doomicorn to my collection. This was such a highly coveted polish when it came out during a polish pickup, not even last year, but I think in 2022. It is a super sheer lavender base color that is just absolutely packed with this glowing lime green to blue shifting shimmer. It is just absolutely magical, and this one is definitely really sheer, where on the first coat you just barely get a wash of that base color, so I think you can definitely wear this as a topper, but it looks really nice on 2 coats. Again, you just see a decent amount of nail line, so I did end up doing 3 coats for my swatch here, and I definitely prefer it this way because the color just builds up more, so you see more of that lavender base color coming through, and it's just such a pretty contrast against the lime green shimmer. And here it is in more extreme lighting where you can see the shift to blue. It is just such a gorgeous polish. Huge shout out to Alyssa from Polish Bookworm for sending this to me. Make sure you give her a follow because she has some beautiful swatches of the most shimmery polishes. Now getting into some comparisons, I'm starting with Clairvoyant and showing it next to Cirque's BAE, or Big Aura Energy, from the same Aura collection. BAE is more of a light rosy pink, and Clairvoyant again is like an icy lavender. They both have the same silver magnetic pigment though, and they did bring back BAE a couple of years ago, but I'm really hoping that they will bring back Clairvoyant because it is just so pretty. I know that I tend to give Cirque a hard time with their magnetics because I just don't like how they look with the cat eye because they're just a little too jelly for me, but they were really ahead of their time with this pastel magnetic collection. Then for Cock-a-Doodle-Doom, I knew that I shouldn't have bought this polish. I should have listened to myself because I have this potion polish called Midnight Oasis that I picked up last summer, and it is nearly an identical dupe. They're both purple bases with a vibrant red shimmer. The Sassy sauce I think is just a little bit lighter and more blue leaning. I'm wearing 2 coats of each here, but I'm thinking if I did a 3rd coat of the Sassy sauce, it might look a little bit similar to Midnight Oasis. But yeah, they even have that same shift to gold, so I don't think I needed this polish. And speaking of red shimmers in purple bases, I also had to show this next to ILNP's Hallucinate from the Trapped collection, which was from Halloween 2 years ago. This one has a slightly larger shimmer particle, and it's a little bit more multi-chromatic, where it shifts to green in more extreme angles. And lastly, I wanted to show this next to Dom Polish's Jingle Berries, which is another kind of purple base that has a red shimmer, but it's definitely much more of a red-leaning purple, but it looks pretty much like a red polish next to these two blue-leaning purples. So yeah, Hallucinate is definitely a lot darker, almost like an indigo base color. And then here in extreme lighting, you can see the shifts where they again basically go from red to yellow, but Hallucinate even goes farther, going into green. So these aren't dupes, but I'm curious to know which one you like most. Then for my Lurid lacquers, I wanted to show Only Fools Fail to Admire next to Mooncat's Aphrodisiac, which is from their Goddess Complex collection. That one is even lighter and more of like a baby pink kind of crelly base that also has a shimmer in it, but the shimmer is more of like a blue to purple leaning color, so it's totally different than Lurid. So these are definitely not dupes. I'm wearing 2 coats of each, by the way, and I would say they're pretty similar in terms of formula. Then for Nettle and Briar, I had a feeling it was really familiar to my collection, so I had to see this next to Mooncat's Earth to Gaia from the same Goddess Complex collection. That one is described as having a jade green base, but next to the Lurid polish, it definitely is more of like a seafoamy, almost blue leaning color. I would say that Lurid is definitely more of like a true jade kind of green shade. So they are a little different color-wise, including their shimmers, where Mooncat's shifts from purple to pink in extreme angles. The pink was just a little hard to capture, and Mooncat's was also a bit more opaque, so not dupes. But then I remembered about Cirque Colors Introverde from the MXM Tune collection, and these ended up being a lot more similar than I would have liked. They're pretty much that same color of that jade seafoamy green, but Cirque's is a little bit darker, and they also have that same pinky purple shimmer that shifts to yellow in extreme angles. The only other difference is that this shimmer finish from Cirque includes this dainty hollow sparkle, and there's no hollow in Lurid. So they aren't exact dupes, but they definitely are really, really close. So I'm curious to know if you would call these dupes. And lastly, for Doomicorn, I had to show this next to Mooncat's Moonicorn, which was one of their prototype polishes from the Band of Misfits collection. They are kind of similar, but not exactly. But when I finally swatched Doomicorn, I was like, wait a second, I have something like this in my collection, and that would be Pahlish's Lavender Mint, which I had shared in my favorite shimmers video. It's definitely a little bit of an older polish in my collection from like a couple of years ago, and Pahlish does these smaller bespoke batches, so unfortunately it's not going to be easy to find. But they aren't exact dupes either, because Doomicorn is just a lot more sheer. I'm wearing 2 coats of each, and you can definitely still see nail line there, where the other 2 polishes have a lot more coverage. But I'm thinking if I did 1 coat of Pahlish's Lavender Mint, it would kind of look like what Doomicorn looks like on 3 coats. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for my recent haul. As always, I would love to know what you think of the shades that I picked up, if you've tried any of these brands before. Well, I'm pretty sure you've tried almost all of these brands, maybe with the exception of Lurid Lacquer, because that's like the newest one on the scene. But yeah, overall, I would love to know what you think of these, because generally I am happy with them. Like, even though I always give Cirque Magnetics a hard time, I am so happy about having these 2 in my collection. They are just so beautiful. For the Sassy Sauce polishes, I definitely am happy with the magnetic, and don't get me wrong, Cock-a-Doodle-Doom is so freaking gorgeous, but as you saw in my comparisons portion, I pretty much already had a polish like it. I feel like I did already mention that at some point too in a previous video, that I had been wanting to grab that shade for a while, but I was like talking myself out of it for months, telling myself, I know there's a potion polish that I have that is very similar to it, but every single time that I saw swatches, I was like, oh my god, this is so freaking pretty. So I couldn't help myself, and I just had to add it to my order when I was picking up the magnetic. Then for the 2 Lurid lacquers, I really did enjoy them because they were just such beautiful shimmers, but I just couldn't help but like kick myself when I realized I forgot about having Cirque's Introverde, because it is just so similar. I've gotten comments before basically like praising me for my comparisons, but sometimes I just forget that I have something. I mean, my collection has definitely grown so much over the last like year and a half. A couple of months ago, I started a new spreadsheet to actually keep track of my polishes just to like avoid this from happening. But even still, I feel like there are just some polishes that it's like, I still really want them or like I need them. Case in point, Bees Knees Lacquer's Doomicorn, where looking at photos of it, I mean, I fell in love from like the first time that I saw it, and it was one of those polishes I regretted missing out on. And it's just so crazy that it never occurred to me that I already had a polish from Pahlish very similar to it. Though I don't want to say that I regret them necessarily, but I am just frustrated with myself that I forgot that I had polishes similar in my collection, or that I knew that I had polishes in my collection that were similar, but I decided to just get them anyway. Because like I mentioned before, I am running out of space with my Helmers, and I really just want to be more mindful about what I'm picking up. So hopefully you can make me feel better in the comments by letting me know what polishes you have grabbed before that you were just so excited for, but then once you got them in the mail, you're like, wait a second, I pretty much already have this in my collection. Or just let me know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.